After 2009, Messi started piling up Ballon d'Ors faster than England misses penalties. But by 2013, things were about to shift. Cristiano had one of the best years of his career, and after a certain match with his national team, the race for that year's Ballon d'Or tilted his way. For many, that game was also the confirmation of the legend Cristiano would become. Nobody doubted his work ethic, his athleticism, but back then, there was still the question, could he really go head-to-head with Messi? Well, for a lot of fans, the answer came in Portugal's World Cup playoff against Sweden. But how did we even get to that playoff? Portugal had a decent qualifying campaign but dropped key points, like a frustrating draw against Northern Ireland in Porto and a loss to Russia. That left them stuck in the second place, forcing them into the playoff route. Sweden had finished second in their group too, so the World Cup ticket was going to be decided over 2 legs. On top of the Ballon d'Or battle between Messi and Ronaldo, this matchup added another heavyweight clash: Cristiano Ronaldo versus Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Only one of them would make it to the World Cup. And for Zlatan, this was seen as his last real chance. The hype was so big that even wild stories came out, like Adrian Mutu, Zlatan's former teammate, claiming Zlatan once had a dream about Ronaldo. Zlatan's the best. We used to sleep in the same room. One night he woke up. Ibra told me, I didn't wake up, I had a nightmare. I dreamed Ronaldo was better than me. He only went back to sleep after I said, no, you are the best in the world. Calm down. Most likely Zlatan's dream was about Ronaldo, phenomenal, but still stories like that were used to fuel the Cristiano versus Zlatan rivalry. Even today people bring it up. The playoff kicked off in Lisbon, with Sweden looking to sit back and make it as tight as possible. In the first half, Moutinho gave it a go and the whole stadium thought Portugal had scored, until they realized the ball had hit the wrong side of the net. At 22 minutes, Nani whipped in a cross for Cristiano, but Isaacson denied him. Pepe tried his luck too, but once again the Swedish keeper was solid. The second half started with chaos in the box, the ball bouncing around everywhere, but somehow it stayed out. And just when it looked like Sweden would escape, Miguel Veloso sent in a cross and Cristiano, almost falling over, scored with a header in the 81st minute. That's right, the savior had arrived, foreshadowing not only the second leg but maybe his entire career. 3 minutes later, Cristiano hit the post again, and soon after the match ended 1-0. Now all that was left was to finish the job in Stockholm, but Zlatan wasn't about to make it easy. The second leg kicked off with the Swedish crowd fully behind their team, cheering every touch in yellow and whistling loudly from the very anthem whenever Portugal had the ball. Every Portuguese possession was met with a wall of boos. With that atmosphere against them, the match got underway. Both sides looked cautious. For Portugal, it made sense. They had the lead and could afford to wait, but Sweden were just moving the ball side to side, throwing the occasional long ball. Up to the 8th minute, the only real action was a stray ball rolling onto the pitch, and then, a few minutes later, another ball rolled again. Nervous energy, maybe. It wasn't until the 14th minute that something happened. A free kick within, Bruno Alves with a header, stopped again by Isaacson, just like in the first leg. The stars everyone came to see weren't showing up. Zlatan so far was falling down and then falling down again. Cristiano sometimes was blasting shots into the stands, then complaining like the goalposts weren't where they should be, and yes, also hitting the ground a lot. At the 32nd minute, Portugal won a corner. Cristiano missed. 2 minutes later, another missed again. Portugal were on top now. After half an hour of sleep-inducing football, it was surprisingly the visitors taking control. Cristiano kept pushing, looking for crosses, trying to set up Almeida. Pepe, sporting a full head of hair, and maybe out of sheer frustration, suddenly remembered he was Pepe and almost pulled off one of his trademark moves. Finally, just before halftime, Zlatan actually got on the ball, but maybe it would have been better if he just kept falling over. The first half ended without much excitement, but what it lacked in fireworks only set the stage for the second half that would go down as one of the greatest in football history. The second half began and it looked like different players had come out. Just 2 minutes in, Ronaldo had a go, even though he was offside. The captain was starting his symphony. Sweden didn't sit back either and immediately forced Patricio into a big save. By the 49th minute, in just 4 minutes, we had already seen more football than in the entire first half, and even the first leg. It was end-to-end action, until Ronaldo, perfectly positioned and thanks to a brilliant pass, found himself almost alone. He struck, goal, 1-0. And to make it even more epic, Ronaldo unleashed one of his first well-formed Sioux celebrations, the same one he would go on to repeat hundreds of times in his career. He had already done it months earlier with Real Madrid, but this one was different. This one was special. This time he was wearing his country's shirt. Then, almost as if remembering that nightmare from years earlier, Zlatan answered in the 67th minute with a towering header. He didn't celebrate though. He knew Sweden still needed more to take the series. With a stoic expression, he jogged back to midfield and Sweden went all in. A minute later, Castro went down in the box, but the referee waved it off and even showed him a yellow. Sweden finally seemed to wake up and realize this was a World Cup playoff. It had only taken them 67 minutes. They kept pressing and running until they won a free kick near the area. Zlatan stepped up after a dummy run. He was the one to hit it, a rocket. Nobody even saw it. Goal. Sweden 2-1. They were edging closer to the World Cup. 2 goals in under 5 minutes. For most teams, that would have been a nightmare. But for Cristiano, it was anything but. He simply tied his boot tighter and continued his monologue. Just 5 minutes later, another ball slid through to him. He sprinted and silenced Sweden before they could even finish celebrating. 2-2. The comeback was now almost impossible for the Swedes. The moment was so epic, it even looked like Zlatan himself was applauding. Kickoff, Portugal won the ball back. Another fantastic pass found Cristiano, and he didn't forgive. 3-2. In the blink of an eye. With that strike, Zlatan's hopes of being the hero or even going to the World Cup with Sweden vanished. The entire Portuguese bench rushed to Cristiano, who that night erased any doubt about the legend he was and would continue to be for his country. From that moment, Sweden disappeared. Cristiano had ripped away every ounce of hope, but like a relentless machine, he kept going. In the 80th minute, he nearly scored a 4th. He was making his teammates play better too. Right up until the final whistle, he kept trying. Ironically, it looked like Portugal were the ones desperate for more goals. Full time, Portugal were heading to Brazil 2014. Zlatan would later say, "A World Cup without me is nothing to watch," while also denying that he applauded Cristiano that night. But what was undeniably is that beyond qualification, that evening sealed something else. Cristiano had secured his second Ballon d'Or and launched the run of records and Ballons d'Or that would one day bring him level with Messi, and for many, even above him.